So I used to buy those like rehydration Gatorades a lot. It's kind of like
Hmm.
I don't even like normal Gatorade that much even anymore. And whenever I have those rehydration Gatorades, I just think to myself like, why isn't this the base? This feels like it's
I
doing
thought
something.
Gatorade was already a rehydration drink.
That's what I thought. And then they're like, nope, this is the one.
This
It,
is
it
the
makes me question how they
premier
started
version of
out.
Gatorade.
Yeah. Makes me question it.
It wasn't hard to rehydrate athletes when all they were doing was sitting on the sidelines smoking cigs and drinking alcohol.
Watching that
So
Earnhardt documentary.
honestly, if you just give them some water with some salt in it, that was Gatorade.
Yeah. Well, yeah, watching that Earnhardt documentary, it's crazy what NASCAR drivers used to do.
I know,
They
dude.
just, I love the during the caution, is Dick Trickle just lighting a cigarette,
Yeah.
just driving. But anyways, my wife bought these like hydration packets that you'd put in water, and you don't even notice it in this water, but they are so salty. It's just
Super
like
salty.
it's like flavored ocean water. It's not
Nice.
raspberry flavored. It's like raspberry flavored salt. And every time I first drink, I go, oh, I mean, it works. And thankfully, like I like it and it's a bit cheaper in the end. I don't have to like go out of my way to find those rehydration because we go to Trader Joe's. They're not carried at Trader Joe's. But man, I was like, and then she tried them and she was like, ooh. And I was like, yeah, I already have cholesterol issues. I don't know if this is really helping. But our actual intro today, I just thought that was a funny story. Our actual intro was something we didn't actually talk about last week that I wanted to hit on because it was fitting for Charlotte, being in Charlotte. And, you still live in the Charlotte area. I used to. And we grew up, or a good part of our lives was there. I kind of can split my life down the middle with Florida, growing up in Florida and growing up in North Carolina. But yeah, when we were living in Charlotte, though, we for a while, first when we moved there, and then kind of had some stints back in front of the track. We used to live in front of the track. Like every morning, if you were going to work, you would come out and you would see the lug nut office and everything. And do you have any like favorite? There's a lot of bad memories, but also a lot of good memories from that time. We really made it our stomping grounds.
Yeah, good memories, bad. I don't know if I'd say it's no, neither here nor there for me.
I mean, our
I
dog died
didn't,
while we were there, so there's a bad memory
yeah,
because
he
it.
passed away while we lived there. I wasn't even home when he died.
Yeah,
When they had to go put him down. I was at the racetrack. I was in like Michigan or something. It was in the summer.
yeah, way to go. But I mean, for me, one of my favorite memories was those independent vendors, which I am still on the lookout for them. I haven't been able to go to a Charlotte race in a minute. But yeah, whenever we would just get together any change, at least I would. I didn't have any money. Just get together any
I
change and
didn't
then go
either.
find the vendors. And I
Go
remember
buy
one of them just,
die-cast cars.
yeah, they just dumped cars onto a table, and I love sorting through them. I think I found like Kyle Petty's Hot Wheels diecast car, like a 1/64th scale diecast car. Those were always really fun and stuff.
Yeah,
And yeah, but those
good times.
it was a weird time, but it was also a unfortunate time to like live in that chaos because I don't you remember the Buick, and that thing just took a beating. I've would gotten into a wreck with it was a fender bender, but I exaggerated to be able to say it survived a semi wreck. Like I hit a semi with it, and then yeah, I got hit for, rear-ended, which that totaled the car, or at least made it a salvage title. But then the thing that took it out was during a race week, some drunk people on a golf cart came and hit our car, and that's what did
I don't
the
remember
Buick.
that. Why do
Oh
I not
yeah,
remember that?
we need to have dad on his. I wasn't there at the time, but I was just trying to get rid of the Buick for so long because I was the one that had to drive it, and so many like things wrong with it. I didn't even know how many miles were on it because it was a digital gauge, and the digital lights or the lights on the dash went out, and so I couldn't even tell you what. Like I
You're
actually
like,
couldn't
when do
tell
I
you.
need an oil change?
Didn't know. Uh, didn't know what gear I was in. I actually had like muscle memory of drive and stuff. Um, but yeah, because it was also next to the mileage on the digital meter that like I couldn't
On the
tell you
dash.
on the dash. Yeah, when I went from park into drive, I was like, here we go.
Hope it's in drive.
Yeah,
It's in neutral and just rev it up really
yeah.
bad.
It's not working. But
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun to live in front of the track, but during race weeks had its pros and cons, definitely.
A
And I
lot of
also
people.
remember getting fed up with having to do a U-turn at the light because if you're trying to turn left into the area, you had to go to the light that was only like 30 feet away from the actual entrance. And so everybody that lived there just got fed up and went over the small
The
median.
small median. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did too.
Well, you had several different cars, but I was like the Versa, you couldn't have done that in, or did
No,
you?
I don't
With it?
remember if what I did with it. I just remember I got to the point where as long as there wasn't a cop nearby, I was just going over the median. I didn't really care.
Yeah, everyone did that. It was just kind of that's one thing I will say about LA. All the roads are kind of like Bruton Smith Boulevard where there's like no median in the middle. And
So
so
you can do
you
that
can
if you
just
need to.
U-turn it anywhere. I kind of love
Nice.
that because there'll be times where it's like turning left at a place is just not practical out of the sense of
Hmm.
so you go with the flow of the right and then you just take a U-turn and it works really well. Um, all right, well, let's just get into it. And
Nashville,
Nashville. All right.
episode 9.
All right. Nashville's in the books. Blake, how was it? How was the truck race?
Probably the most heartbreaking race that I've left in recent memory because knowing that we kind of on pit road failed the team, like we just had a bad stop that didn't, it's kind of just misfortunate that how things went and how the night played out, knowing if we hadn't lost those spots, we probably could have won. So that constant wonder is there, but
Yeah.
that's a part of being in the pit crew world. It's a part of what we sign up to do and know that sometimes we're going to be the unsung heroes and sometimes we take all the blame. So,
Yeah. It is one of those things as a pick, remember, it's like when y'all do win, even like Larson's championship, it's kind of like almost a remembered thought to also be like, well, he won because of the pit crew. Um,
yeah,
but it's like, well, Larson dominated that season and won the championship. And it's more of like he won
there's
the
no talk of
championship.
that because
Yeah.
of the
But
team.
somebody messes up, like Blaney's pit crew was just not, not keeping up with his car in a way.
You
And
know what
just,
I'll say to kind of add to the Blaney talk? And I was thinking about this last night. We've had a very similar year to Blaney, except for we didn't have blown engines.
yeah.
Overall, great. Like we've ran great everywhere we've gone, had plenty of speed, some pit road issues or misfortunes, bad luck. I was thinking about like a cup comparison driver to the season we've had with Lane is Blaney. No
Hmm.
wins until last night. We've had some difficulties with pit road, pit stops with trying to learn to make some adjustments with some things that we didn't know about until they happened in front of us in real time. And then that's when we had to like, start tweaking it and working on things at the shop or going over stuff with the crew chief Dylan and Lane just to get on the same page. And like my coach all messaged us yesterday, and he was like, "We just got to work on those fine details. We got to figure out a way to. We're doing everything right in practice. We're always working towards being better. We're clicking and we can run good stops. It's those fine little details that when we go to the track, it translates. And that's the one thing we're kind of missing on at times. So."
Yeah.
It's I can feel the pressure. I'm not gonna lie. Every pit stop now is bigger and it's mounting because we haven't won yet. And every race for the last month and a half we've been in contention. So I can feel every pit stop we come down, we're top five and we have to run a good stop. We have to execute and do our job. And we know we can. It's not really a lack of confidence. It's just we've had two bad pit stops, one in Texas and then one in Nashville that really cost us.
Well, I will say, out of all the truck races I've watched this year, which has been all of them, this was like the first I remember them really like looking at y'all's pit crew in a like and being like, oh, they're messing up. And it to also say you got on TV twice. I just held the camera on you at one point. I might try and find that footage and put it in this if people are watching. But I was sitting there, I was like, and I was telling my wife because she was sitting there as well, and I was like, man, this is like the first time I can remember them like showing Blake's team or the 34 team and just being like, yeah, this is not their best stop. And I was sitting there, I was like, that's good on them for like, y'all go quite a while without having like really any pit issues. But in those moments where you do have those issues, y'all had one or two bed stops.
The
Um,
first one wasn't great, but it was something that it really wasn't going to ruin our night. The second
what
one
was
really
it? Because
took,
they showed it and they thought, because I know it was like a brand new truck that y'all brought to the track, right?
yes.
And so
So,
is
are you talking
there
about the second stop that really kind of?
Well,
put
there's
us
one where
behind.
it looked like you couldn't get the tire off.
The very first stop, I almost had a hanger. The lug nuts for some reason didn't want to come off. I hit all five. I hit one or two extra to get them to come off, and I realized the one didn't really move for
Yeah.
some odd reason. And a lot of that has to do with how much brake heat and brakes the driver's using. That goes for Lane, with my Xfinity driver Jeremy. I try to gauge by what he's giving us feedback on both of them. Like, hey, if the truck's really tight, they're probably using more brakes. So the brakes are going to be a little bit hotter. The wheels are
Mm.
going to be a little bit hotter. The lug nuts aren't going to come off as easy. So I'm trying to gauge before the stop, are these going to come off as easy as they should?
Mm.
So I know
Okay.
Lane was saying he was a little bit tight, and he's like, I remember that when I hit those lugs off, they just didn't want to come off like they normally would. And then the second stop, the one that they really, from what everybody, I had so many people message me and send me videos of the stop. Like Sam was watching it at home and
What?
cussing at the TV. She was just like, she saw, she knows, she's seen so many pit stops now being around me
Yeah.
that she's like, she knows something's wrong.
Yeah.
But the first issue was the shock wasn't rebounding as fast, which is okay. It's the setup that we had in the truck. We can kind of work around that. It didn't want to come out, and then when we tried to install the new tire, when Landon went to hang the right front, it caught the fender a little bit and it wouldn't go on. It was almost the same thing as Texas, except we had seen it already. We knew that Texas, the wheel was turned a little bit or something. We needed Landon to turn the wheel more. So that's what you'll see in the video. Landon like puts his hand over the
Yeah.
hood, waving and motioning to him. And almost instantly after that, it went on. So
Yeah.
it's really just one of those things. It's bad luck and everything kind of coming together all at once.
Well, that's what I'm wondering is if is that something that you see with a new truck? Is there a difference between the new truck and like a one you've been pitting for a minute? Because that's
I'll
what
be honest,
Michael
no.
Waltrip was kind of like. He's like, I know it's a new truck. I wonder if it's like some of the kinks being worked out or whatever. And I was like,
No,
is that a
I
thing?
mean, a long time ago, I possibly would have bought that idea. And being in my, youth or inexperience, I would have thought maybe that was a part of it. But as I've gotten older, it's got to do with the setup
Mm,
and knowing what we're working with. And we get sent either we go to the race shop before the truck leaves and we'll see it in person. So we know what the shock rebound and the fallout is.
yeah.
We know what it looks like. Or sometimes if we don't get to go to the shop, we'll get a video of what both sides of the truck look like from our engineer or from Dylan himself, our crew chief. So we know what we're looking for when we go to the track. And when we're trying to run those setups because it helps, aerodynamics and it's the setup that the truck needs. Sometimes it comes at the cost of we know the stop might be slower. And I'll be honest, the best way I can explain that is Daytona. The 34 and the 38 trucks, the shock rebound was so slow that we sat there for like 3 or 4 seconds pulling on it before it came out. So,
That's
all that
interesting.
being said, it just depends on the track and the setup that they want to put in it. So if you're okay with losing some time on a pit stop because you know it's faster on the racetrack, or if you want a better balance between both, like on the track performance and for pit stops, that's really what it comes down to. So I could be wrong. There could be something that, it's a new truck. They don't know this or that, but for the most part, we know what we're working with before we get to the track, whether it's brand new or if it's a truck we've used before.
Yeah. I've never really knew that much about like this. I knew the setup can affect it, but I just thought about it in the way of like the chassis or the body might be low, and so getting it beyond the lip. I didn't know the shocks and all that had a
hmm
big deal with
So
it.
here's something else that if you want to get in like the advanced settings of pit stops,
Dumb it down for me.
I'll try. I'll try.
Draw me
So
a
if
picture.
you get into the advanced settings of how pit stops are run, sometimes being at where you're located on like what pit stall on pit road dictates how well the shot comes out. For example, if we're pit stall 40, like where we were in Nashville, Lane's coming off the track at full speed and he's not riding at say 45, 55 miles an hour for a longer period of time. So the front end of that truck's not under the same payload when he drives another 200 yards down pit road to pit stall, say five. So that shock has more time to fall out. So when he drives it into the pit stall five, that shock's a little bit, it's got more drop out and it's been able to release more. If we're
Mhm.
in pit stall 40, it's still wedged up in the fender some. So that's something that we also have to take into account for. That's something that we've talked about. And that's something that we just
Y'all
have to kind of
practice
remember.
that kind. I mean, I don't know how it would be to
we
practice,
try to
but
rep we try to replicate the race setups, but to be honest, we kind of use a standard setup for our practice truck.
yeah.
It's the intermediate track, which is your Nashville's, Kansas. because those are the hardest to pit. It's just
Hmm.
like what we had happen at Texas and at Nashville this past weekend, where the tires are more inside the fender for aerodynamic purposes and stuff. So that's what our practice truck is like. It's like that setup. Your short tracks, it doesn't really matter as much about aerodynamic. So therefore, those are a little bit easier to work with. Coming up to Michigan, we might have a similar setup to something like Daytona because of the high speeds. And a
Yeah,
little bit of the aerodynamics is so important there that it might be a different hybrid version of what we have for intermediate than we do like super speedway. So
yeah.
I don't know that, 100% how they set it up, but I think it's going to be something along those lines.
Well, with the truck race, there wasn't much to really discuss beyond the pit stop stuff, but I forgot to do my scheme shoutouts. I chose the 18, the 5, and the 99. So
Okay.
I don't know if you saw any of those and
I
liked
don't
them.
remember the five truck. I don't
The
remember that
five, it
matchup.
was the 818 tequila, like green on green. It was pretty cool, honestly. And the more I saw it,
Okay.
the more I liked it. But let's get into the finishers. Roger Caruth,
He got
great,
himself a win.
great race on
Also,
his
give a
shoulders.
shout out to the 71 crew. They
Okay.
they won Raja that race and they earned it that night. I told a couple of the guys
Hey,
like
there we go. Let's shout
congrats.
out the pit crew here
Yeah.
because you're
Not
not
my
gonna
guys.
hear
We
it
did
from
not.
yeah.
We don't deserve anything from that race. We sucked. But yeah, the
Um,
71 guys, good job.
yeah. Well, also, I mean, like they got him out in a good position and kept that good position, but then also he drove really well, especially with someone like Heim, uh, coming up on him. But Corey Heim was pretty dominant as usual. But yeah, it ended up. I mean, it was
He
no
led
bad,
the beginning.
huh?
He led the beginning of the race, so we passed him and we led some and ultimately I think we had the best truck, but just wasn't meant to be.
Well, yeah, that was one thing I did make a note of that. In this truck race, and I just feel like a lot of the truck races for this season, you in the 11, or so the 34 and the 11, and even the 38 at times, like those are the three trucks that are just
I think
always,
I think we're like among those three, those are the trucks every week that are right
yeah.
there at the front.
And I would narrow it down to you in the 11, are always just always battling up front.
Yeah.
And y'all may like get pushed to the back from just not re or not qualifying or having an issue with qualifying to some extent. But when y'all get back up there, it's just you and the 11. It feels like the whole time.
Yep.
So that's it's cool and fun to watch. But there was really no other like other than
It
Bailey
wasn't really a
Kurt.
storyline in the
No.
truck. I wouldn't even say there was much of a storyline in Xfinity or Cup.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't a huge weekend. I mean, Cup's got a bit more storylines to it that are more notable, but I will say to finish off the truck race finishes, Corey Day got a good finish out of today, which is something he hasn't had a top five yet, I think. I'm not sure, but it was cool to see him kind of break that seal. So let's move on to the Xfinity race where I'm gonna assume things went better pit wise. I saw y'all only once on a pit stop, so but that was
Oh,
the
were we
first
on
stage.
TV?
Yeah, like the first stage whenever y'all got like top three or something like that
Gotcha.
from staying out.
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I mean, yeah, how did the Xfinity race go from your perspective?
We had a little bit of adversity during the Xfinity race. My left front and my rear changer Jacob Ray's right rear, we had a lot of stud length because they had to do some stuff in tech. They had to take out a spacer. So we had a little bit more thread length than normal, but overall it wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah.
After that first stage when we finished second or third, whatever it was, we kind of maintained. I had to make a shock adjustment. So it was kind of our usual night, but I'm actually was overall really proud of we kind of held our own because we realized quickly on that track position was really important. When I think it was during the second stage, we were at the back for
Yeah.
some reason. I cannot remember why we were at the back, but we were at the back and we could not really get away from the back like five or six cars where we were
Mhm.
about 10 cars ahead of where we were. And so that's when Case, our crew chief, decided to make a couple of calls on pit road where instead of us trying to make big time adjustments, we were going to make small adjustments to make our stops faster.
Yeah.
And we gained like five or six spots to get us back up to the high teens or 20th or so to where he could be in the position he was supposed to be at kind of all night.
That kind of just sounds like Nashville. And like I don't know what I mean by that, but going into this race, I was like, it might be a more boring race. Tire wear isn't a huge deal. It might be very much like track position dependent, but it wasn't like too far into, at least for the cup race. It was like just too far, like uh on a track position. Good Lord, sorry, Lucy just came in and just threw everything off. Um, yeah, so the track position wasn't huge, or it was huge, but like you could still pass. And then also like if someone got into the back, that was just oh man, it was hard to get out of there, it seemed like. But
Yeah.
also like you're saying, like pit road really was a big factor
It was
um
all about
all
track
weekend.
position.
Yeah.
I think you had about a 5 to 10 lap window that tires were important, and then they leveled out so much that you
Yeah.
really, even if you had 10 lap newer tires after the 10 or 15 lap run, the 10 lap newer tires were about equal to the 20 to 25 lap tires. So the
Yeah.
fall off just wasn't as severe to where it really made a difference. So I think some people like ourselves for the 51, we realized we needed to get back to mid packed where we were because that's where we needed to be. Because if we kept trying to make big adjustments, the risk versus reward was not there, where we couldn't make up the time we lose on pit road making big adjustments on the racetrack.
Yeah. And I'll be able to talk more about like the track position stuff if we wanted to in Cup because yeah, it was just odd. Like I was sitting there, I was like, oh, that's probably gonna be boring, and just the restarts will be. I don't know. It was just not kind of what I expected. It kind of exceeded my expectations a bit. I guess I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I remembered. I never get too hyped for Nashville because it can be just kind
A very
of
simple race.
yeah.
Nothing,
But I don't
nothing
know
crazy.
this year I don't I maybe I just noticed a bit like I don't it was kind of it's a sketchy track to an extent and I'm
Yeah,
curious to see how this track ages because we saw several drivers like it's easy
they
to get
just
loose
lost
there.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I know that it's basically a hybrid between like a short track and an intermediate. The way
yeah.
it's banked like Richmond, but it's
hmm
the size of like a Charlotte, race. It's almost 1.5 miles.
Well also the
So
concrete probably doesn't help.
it's concrete.
So
It's different. It's definitely different, but I think that's what makes NASCAR cool is we try different surfaces and different, tracks that have different banking.
yeah, that's why whenever the conversation comes up about just like trying to find the most diverse car, just one size fits all kind of car, I'm like I don't know if you can do that with NASCAR. I granted I don't want to see three different cars because NASCAR is not built off of that. I want to, but like I would like for maybe I'd like to open up what you can do with the car more,
Hmm.
and not be so strict about it. That was another thing because I think with Xfinity Race, I think it was Daniel Dye, which such an ironic sponsor for his name. Have you seen that? It's like
Yeah, the
race to
suicide
stop.
prevention.
Yeah, and his last name. Gosh,
It looks like the Uncrustables car. That's what I think of
yeah.
every time I see it.
Wait,
The teal colored number with the purple. I think of
yeah.
Uncrustables.
Yeah. Well, if we're talking about what cars looked like, I made a note specifically to talk about this was Parker Retzlaff car. Looks like a Mark Martin Viagra scheme and also Ryan Newman's 2020 scheme. I tried to look and read the sponsor, but I was also looking at Ryan Newman being flipped upside down at Daytona. So the number or
Wasn't that a
the
Cook or something like that?
I don't know.
Koch.
But it's like the same colors, especially with Newman's to Retzloff's current car, almost the same design. But
Hmm.
I like it, but it just looks a lot like those other cars I mentioned. So maybe don't change it up. I liked it. So, but let's get into the other scheme shoutouts. The 24, really liked that one. I think that
Hmm.
was Jeffrey Earnhardt this week. But then the 18, I also really enjoyed that one. He was doing pretty good at the start. It wasn't a huge, if you're trying to remember the paint scheme, it
I can't
wasn't
remember
terribly
it.
memorable. It was pretty basic, but it was new. Um, he was doing good. Swalich, right? That's how you say his last
Hmm.
name. He was
Williams
doing good. He
Wallach.
led a couple laps, which was really cool on his part. But yeah, ultimately lost it at one point. I don't even know where he finished, but yeah, I was like, let's, you know, don't really have an opinion on him, but want to see a rookie have a good race kind of deal. But and then the 14. That one I didn't get a clear view of, to be honest with you, but from the angles I saw, I could tell I'd probably like it. I'm kind of a I'm kind of a sucker for not only red, white, and blue cars, but dark blue and like a cream color car, which was what the 14 was. But anyways, there wasn't really notable finishers. Um, for yeah, it was pretty basic. Connor Zilic had a good race. I
Yeah,
was
he
kind of
did.
hoping he'd get up there by the end, but Justin Allgaier just dominated and
Yeah.
very much the king of Nashville right now for the Xfinity. But did you have anything else for the Xfinity race before we move on?
No, not that I can think of. It was overall like a good solid day for the 51. We finished fairly well. I don't know what we finished off the top of my head, like 18th or 19th.
Hmm.
So right about where we should finish every week is between 15th to 20th. That's where we typically
Yeah.
try to run a top 15 if we can. That's our goal. So
Yeah.
overall, a solid weekend.
And y'all had, yeah, like I said before, a good stage
Hmm.
finish. So
Got good
good.
points, like 9 points for that.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the cup race. I'll just go ahead and get the shout outs out of the way. 42, the 47, and the 60. 47 ended up crashing, but I was thinking out of all the energy drink sponsors that we have in NASCAR, Monster and NOS
Celsius.
and Celsius, I think NOS is the best job.
Paint scheme.
Yeah. I
They
don't
have
know
good
what to think about
colors.
Monster because I do like scheme consistency, hence HendrickCars.com.
Yeah, same
It
paint scheme
looks
for
good,
5 years.
but I would like to see a bit of a change too.
You know what? I'll be honest. I think Celsius has the potential to have some really cool like
It is.
some matte white with maybe some like gray overlay colors, and I would love to see that. But
I would love to see them start to do kind of like what Mountain Dew would do, if I remember right, or another drink would be like change up the scheme based on a new flavor. I know they got some a lot of cool flavors like Arctic something and
yeah,
berry
do like
some
a white monster, something like
yeah,
that.
stuff
That
like
would be
that. I want
cool.
to like show off your other drinks because it gives you an excuse to make some really cool cars. Uh,
Yeah, hell yeah.
but so also I had the 24 in my scheme shout out because it was like 24 flames, but then the more I saw the car as I don't dislike it, but I was like, it's not the traditional Hendrick 24 car flames that we're used to
Wasn't that
seeing.
the Raptor car?
Yeah, I think they've ran it
It's red and
before, but it's
black.
got like the very realistic flames on it. Um, which it looks good, but I was like, I like the traditional flames that we're used to seeing on the 24, like we saw at the 600. And
Right.
so that's where I'm like, oh, that's an automatic shout out right there. But yeah, so
A
getting
yellow
into
number. I
yeah,
feel like that had the vintage look.
it did. Getting into the cup race, one of the big things was um, what's his name? Alex Bowman, my pick to win. Right
Wrecked.
at, yeah. But it was a pretty good race, honestly, compared to last year. I don't remember much of last year besides the finish. Um,
Just nothing but overtime
yeah,
starts.
we kind of got that out of the way in stage two, but the one thing I did make a note of was Legacy has been showing potential.
Dude, let's
Like
talk
Eric
about
Jones
them.
was up front for a while,
Eric
and he did
Jones
finish
in the Dollar
seventh.
General car, right? That was the
Yeah,
43.
yeah.
Yeah, they've been finding some stuff, man. I've been happy seeing them up front. Same with the
Was them,
42
yeah.
showing hints of it.
Not this week. Him and the 54. I don't know what happened to Gibbs. He was just in like the top 20s, 30s all race. Just was there. I don't know if
Mm,
anything happened, but like I don't know. I was like, what's going on with him? Because Larson was back there, but Larson was able to hold him off for 15 laps, whereas
hmm.
Gibbs I don't know, he just didn't have it. I was kind of like, I was shocked by it. But going back to the legacy cars, yeah, the 42, I mean, the past 6 weeks have had a couple top fives or top tens at least. And
Yeah.
to see Jones get up there and actually like be a competitor up there this week was really cool to see. And yeah, I'm hoping that they can keep that ball rolling just to get another competitive team up there and run with them Inspire right now pretty much have the potential in the way of newer teams. I feel like you could call 2311 a new team, but they've pretty much established themselves as competitors enough for me to not really put them in this category. Whereas we can even talk about Hocevar finishing second and actually like really just racing to second and getting it finishing
Yeah.
there. So I don't know. It was a cool race for a couple people, but shout out to Christopher Bell and to Larson. Like I said, they recovered their races pretty well.
Hmm.
I don't know if I want to shout out Chase Elliott. He just fell. He just fell.
I'll say this, my one of my favorite schemes that I don't get to see often is the Kelly Blue Book Chase Elliott car. The baby blue is sweet. I like that
Yeah,
one a lot.
It was one of my shout outs, but like I try to shout out schemes we're not going to see again,
Yeah,
probably. But yeah, I would love to have Kelly Blue Book as a sponsor. Their colors are just right at my alley of just dark blue. Give me a gold and a white. Because he used to have some really cool ones back in the previous gen. I remember there was like one he ran that I don't know what to call it. It looked like it exploded on the front with gold and blue, and they've always looked really good. But yeah, I don't know what to say about this race other than I was just shocked that Hocevar was able just to hold off and finish second. He held off Denny Hamlin for that. So
I
good
think
on
the
him.
77 is probably the next first time winner, if you ask me. I think that his time's
Hot
coming.
take. That's what I would call
A
that.
little bit.
Yeah, who else would be a good first time winner coming up? I don't know. I don't know
Let's
if there's
see. First time winner?
a Priest would be a close one. No, he's won.
Yeah,
Has he won?
maybe. No, he has not won. Not in the
Hmm,
Cup Series.
not in the
He's
Cup
won in
Series.
like trucks and
Yeah,
Xfinity, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's won in the Truck Series. Yeah, Priest might. He's shown some glimmer of he could get a win. I think the 77 is the next one though to break through and actually get a win.
yeah. He didn't come out of this race without controversy, spinning the
Yeah, of
47. Um,
course.
so oh yeah, this was something funny I put on the 20 car because it backed up into the wall, but I don't know if you saw the scheme. It was like a
It,
DeWalt like rebar scheme. It
yeah,
looked dirty. And so the damage,
look
I,
normal.
yeah, it looked normal. And it's like riding around, like you wouldn't know that it got to a wreck other than the big tape on there's a big patch of tape on the back. But I was like sitting there watching the race and I found it so funny that he gets to the pit and they're like, where's the damage? This whole car just looks wrecked automatically.
Yeah.
There's like, I don't know where it's at. There's just like feeling for the bump. Yeah, that it was,
I saw when Priest spun out too. He barely tapped the
yeah,
wall.
he just tapped the
It
wall.
didn't even really take him out of contention.
Yeah, there's only two wrecks that really took people out of contention. That was Corey Haim's wreck, which
And Bowman.
he was having a quietly good day. I think I saw he started like 30th and was worked his way up to like 13th by the time he wrecked. And so
Corey can
again,
drive, man.
yeah, I saw that like he's not really able to get to Cup until like 2027 on the path he's on right now. And I'm like, that is
Brutal.
unfortunate. And if I was Ford, I think it was Ford that I don't know. I was thinking that somebody has like an open seat or could find an open seat for him. And as if I was Ford or Chevy, I'd be looking.
Yeah.
I would be going over there and try to poach because he has proven to be at least a good enough driver to. I don't know. He's shown his potential enough now where I'm like, I would give him the shot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, yeah, it was a good race. No one really else to shout out in the way of finishing other than maybe Bubba Wallace, but yeah, he had a bounce back day. Which man, he had that casino scheme.
hmm
I hate that scheme.
Yeah, it kind of throws my eyes off when I see the
It
name of
looks
it.
like a daycare casino. That's what
Yes. Yeah.
I told Lindsay, she was sitting next to me. We're watching Bubba go into a pit stop, and I was like, if I had money to blow, I would walk into that casino, wave it around, and walk out. I just wouldn't want to give them my money. I it makes me mad. Which is a funny like thing with like for me with sponsors now. If they have a cool scheme, I want to buy their product. If they don't have a cool scheme, I just want to ruin it.
Want to protest.
You
I
had
don't
one
like your
shot.
colors. I
Yeah.
don't like your font,
It's honestly
whatever
it's
the
one of
case
the
might
reasons I
be.
go to Valvoline.
You like Valvoline's colors and
Well, honestly, I went there once, had a really good experience, and it's been kept up since, so I'll say that. But like I went there because I was like, oh, like let's just go. I've seen their sponsor enough. I like their cars. Makes me, for some reason, want to go there. So
yeah.
give sponsorship does work, especially when it's a brand you see out on the day to day. But yeah, to wrap up the cup race, though, I was kind of glad to see like Blaney win. They did go on a really long run at the end, which I want to give Amazon credit to. The last like 40 or 50 laps, it was like a sponsored segment, but if it went green, there was no commercials. And
Yeah.
like I was like, awesome. Great on their part was
That's
that
what
they
happens when you get a streamer in there instead of
well also like the
cable
side by
television.
side the whole time. And man, I we're getting a little bit spoiled here, which
I
I am
think
looking forward
Amazon
to.
really has exceeded expectations. I think they've done a great job.
Well, the hour pre and post show is also really cool. If you were able to
Yeah.
watch those, the post I we watched this past weekend, and it was just cool to get their reactions pretty quickly after. And it's just, yeah. I also am really enjoying Carl Edwards and Dale Earnhardt being back.
Hmm.
To watch Carl and LaJoy get really excited for the race. I don't know if you saw, but there was a clip of them from the 600 whenever Ross and
Was
Byron,
passing the 24.
yeah, they
Yeah.
were just there like being fans at
Yeah.
work. And I was like, gosh, I'm not saying that Fox didn't do that. I'm sure they did, but Prime is just doing a lot better
They're
at
showcasing it.
showcasing it, and also like it feels more on the level of something you'd get at an NFL game. With having that hour long pre and post race, and I don't know, it makes a bit more sense. It's a lot more of a flow to it, and I don't know, I think they're killing it. Um, yeah, I don't know what to say more about
Owen's
them.
just happy.
Well, it's also made me realize I was sitting there, I was like, man, like I never really thought Fox was horrible, but now having like this
Got new
good,
expectations.
yeah, they've really set the bar. But yeah, I was just like, wow, like I like this, and it sucks that they're going to be done. And I mean, we're almost halfway through with them, but yeah, it's also just so easy to find because usually I'm going on DirecTV, and sometimes it takes me longer than it should. Like even if I do search it, it's still not the correct one or whatever. And then also DirecTV, when paired with it doesn't function quite like a streaming service would. So the way you might rewind might just change the channel because you might just be able to use like
Hmm.
the arrow keys. And so if I hit left to go back, um, is something wrong with your mic?
No. I didn't
Um,
want the washing machine over there banging around and just like clinking in the back.
oh, but yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm just really enjoying this Prime, and I'm gonna take it in while I can, even though I am looking forward to Diffie coming back. So,
Heck yeah.
um, all right. Well, that does it for the Cup race. I already did the shout outs. Yeah. So let's get into a question that I had. When it comes to sponsors, uh, how much do you know about like sponsorship, getting a sponsor, all that? Like,
It it's there's a lot of different ways you could answer that. The sponsorship stuff, really honestly, if you can find sponsors or majority of the sponsor to cover like a season,
mhm,
you can typically find a ride, but it really just depends on what quality of ride you really want. If you want a really good truck, a couple million bucks. If you want a overall really good Xfinity car, 3, 4, 5 million in that range. And then
mhm.
for a full cup season, I know it can be way up there, but it really is just dependent on what the team also has because sometimes they float sponsors. You've obviously seen other teams use the same sponsor on multiple drivers. So it's all what comes down to the contract of if that sponsor is okay with, two different drivers being in partnership with them. So
Yeah.
it's I mean money pays the bills and that ultimately what has the sports come to. A lot of people in the sport that don't need to be there, but it's because they have money backing them and I won't even get into who that is. It's just
Go ahead.
it's very
Name the
honest.
name.
It's very honest whoever if you know watching the sport of who's there for because they have talent or who's not there because they have money.
I would like to see it. I mean, just racing in general is just it's so expensive, and I don't really ever see a way of making it not expensive besides iRacing. Um,
Yeah.
and that is yet to be like a huge path to it. I mean, William Byron, I'm surprised didn't set more of a tone of looking into these drivers, but kind of like you said, it's like, yes, somebody can drive really well, but if they don't have the sponsorship, then what is their value outside of that? So I would like to see a ratio of being a good driver versus being a driver that has sponsorship. Like what is the more attractive percentage? Because I don't know about old NASCAR if it was a model of get the good driver, then find the sponsorship, where now it seems like, do you have the sponsorship and can you at least do a circle? Can you at least,
Honestly, that's probably the easiest way to break it down. I
yeah,
would say back in the 80s, 90s, it was the team had a couple sponsors and they would find a good driver.
yeah.
Now it's turned into roles reversed. We just hire whoever has the money and we know our bills are paid for.
Yeah, and I don't have an issue with like nepotism in NASCAR because it's such a family traditional like sport in a lot of ways, but that's not every car. I mean, you do have an Elliott, a Blaney and stuff like that, but Yeah, it's looking at these lower series, and like I said, if you look at the trucks alone, you know the drivers versus, I don't want to say versus the paid drivers because that's just not true, but there is a clear difference there. Xfinity, it blends a little bit more, and then the Cup, it blends a lot more. Um, and so, yeah, the Cup is always, they say, the great equalizer. But yeah, looking at Xfinity and the trucks, you definitely can maybe take a good guess at who's paying to drive and who's being paid to drive. I think you also put that in the question was, what is it like to work for these paid to drive or paying to drive cars? Because I know you've done start and parked cars. I think that's how you got me into Charlotte that one year was on a start and park car, right?
I believe so. Yeah. If nothing else, at least it was underneath one of the starting park cars.
Yeah.
I
What are
mean,
those
it's
teams
kind of
like?
the it. That was also kind of a tricky one. It goes back to a little bit
Well,
what
like,
we've talked about
is
in the
there a different sort
past.
of urgency in them in the way of like
No, I
what are they
think
going for?
a lot of the teams that are starting park or have multiple cars entered, you're stretched thin because
Hmm.
they don't necessarily have big budgets. They're
Yeah.
trying to make the show and they're trying to make the most with what they can either use on the budget or how do they cut corners. And sometimes you have less personnel, less people behind the wall for pit stops, less lower quality, as in like sometimes you use second hand lug nuts that have been used once or twice that you can get from Champion because they pull them off the tires when they pick them all up.
Yeah.
So they go back to, the Champion shop and they pull off the lug nuts. So they're used or they're we call them one hit
Is that
lugs.
the
So,
same company that has charter planes? Champion?
no.
Don't they? Wasn't is that a charter plane?
There's a charter plane company called Champion, but no, they're not the same.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, so I mean it's there's a couple different ways you could answer that too. It's all about it really comes down to money. If you have the extra money and it's in the budget, because see those drivers sometimes the pay to drive drivers will bring sponsorships because they're going to pay the bills for that team, and
Yeah.
ultimately that team gets to make money off of it. But it's all depending on what you sign your contract to be like. If someone says, "Hey, I have $500,000 in sponsors. I want to run an Xfinity car on a $500,000 budget." You're not going to go run for wins, but out of that $500,000, that driver might say, "Hey, I want to get paid 100 grand throughout the year because they're also going to make purse money." So out of that 100 or the 500 grand, that you're paying that team to go race, and that's probably very low, honestly. Like probably minimum to go race for the Xfinity Series is probably about 1 million. But I'm sure there's some out there that have done it for less.
Yeah.
But if the driver says, "Hey, I'm bringing this much money, I'm going to pay myself this as my pay," and then the rest of this money goes towards the team and the cars and logistics, then y'all work that out, and then the team might say, "Okay, we take all of the purse money wherever the car finishes." I've heard some guys get paid. They have to finish above a certain position to get paid, and if they do, they get paid half the purse that the car makes. So
Yeah.
it's all in what you come up with. Some teams have like a crash clause. If you wreck a car, you have to pay for a new one to be bought from another team or to be refurbished and brought back to full condition that he drove it in. So.
Now, do you know of any drivers that send in like their highlight reel, kind of like a football player would to like a university? Because I got a couple good highlight reels of my Forza driving.
I think you might have a chance,
Yeah.
honestly, if you send it in.
I'm I don't mean to brag, but I'm racing at like no rewinds on Forza, 1 through 8 difficulty. I'm on 8, and I did a 200 lap race at Homestead the other day as I was working because I can multitask. It's called ADHD. You should try it. And let me tell you, I didn't wreck till at least I think it was lap 113. I didn't wreck, so
Wow.
that was pretty good.
So usually you can make it halfway.
Yeah, yeah, usually. And that was after already spinning out, but that was on my own. I owned up to it and I
Drove
got
it
back
too
on.
hard.
It was actually funny. I was like, I don't do all 200 laps at once because I'm like, I'll like do my work and when I kind of feel like I'm getting a little bit too like burning out because I mean, just trying to do creative work, it kind of can burn out for me quickly. So I like turn my attention and like kind of like level it back out, but I'll be racing while I do that. And so I usually won't get through 200 laps. And so I'll turn the Xbox off. It hopefully saves. But then the past two times when I came back, it didn't save my game. So I've restarted this 200 lap race like 4 times now.
Nice.
Uh, it is fun, but it's also just like I'm getting a bit tired of doing this. I'm not even getting like I'll do 150 laps and then not even get anything for it.
Yeah. That's
Sitting here
miserable.
like I'm going through
I
the
wish
woes of a real
iRacing had that
driver.
mode where I could just pause it.
Well,
Because
I've
I got kids. They want to come in here and ask me questions, or I need to go help with the wife,
if
certain
you're
things.
online, you can't pause it. I mean,
No.
that makes sense. Never mind. But
If I'm even if it's an AI race, I have to
okay, I was
just
gonna ask how their AI racing is.
it's pretty cool. I'll give them it's pretty cool, but I can't just hit start and it's paused.
Mm.
I wish I could, unless there's a mode that I don't know about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new racing or to the new NASCAR game by them. So
Yeah. Can't wait
looks
for you to come over here and try the VR and everything now that it's all set up back here
well.
too.
Hopefully Dover is the race I can go or not Dover, Darlington.
Darlington.
Yeah, that's my goal right now, but we'll see. Um, I don't think there's anything else. I feel like I had a question about the sponsorships, but I don't remember. So,
Till next time.
oh wait, Michigan predictions.
Michigan.
Yes, 34-51. Blake's done with his first two. Out of the trucks for me, I would go with uh, I mean, I could just say the 34, the 11. I'll probably be right, but I'm actually going to go with the 34. I feel like y'all are right there. I'm going to go with the 34. As for Xfinity, I'm going to say I had one earlier and I've already lost it. I'm going to say
I'm gonna go
Austin.
Austin Hill.
I was actually going to say Austin Hill.
No, you're a liar. I beat you to it.
Yeah, okay, so I'll take somebody else. If I knew Eric Almirola
I'm gonna
was
go Jesse
racing,
Love.
okay, then I'll go Austin Hill.
RCR horsepower. I think they're gonna be fast.
Yeah. Do y'all have an alliance with does 51 ally?
Not really.
No,
I
they're
think
all
we get Hendrick motors though. So we do have a little bit of
y'all are a
I guess
Chevy, right?
we're a Chevy for
Yeah.
Xfinity.
As for cup predictions, this is where you can be non-biased.
I was
Because
trying to think of this one
let's be clear
earlier.
about your Xfinity pick. It's the 51
And if
always.
it's not us, I'll say Jesse Love's team this week.
Okay, there
Be
we go.
fast. Let's see. If I'm going Cup, I might go with Byron. He's been really good.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna go Byron again. I know I picked him in Charlotte, but I'm gonna go Byron for Michigan.
Another person we didn't really talk about in the cup race was Briscoe. And
He's been fast.
he's been fast. He's been qualifying really well. But yeah, I think he finished like 20th.
Mm.
Something just fell off for him there. But um, with Michigan, I would love to say someone like Chase Elliott. Again, I'm just kind of waiting for them to break through. On behalf of my wife, I would love for him to break through because she is going through the woes of being a race fan. Like she will sit there and watch Chase Elliott go from 6th to 15th and be, what's going on? But I'm gonna go with I just had his name. Oh yeah, I was gonna go with Christopher Bell
Nice.
at
I thought about
Michigan.
maybe picking him.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great drivers nowadays. And watching that Earnhardt documentary, I'm like, man, like what would the field of today look like against? Because everyone in the Earnhardt documentary is like 30 or 40 years old,
I
which
know,
was a
dude.
normal progression
Yeah, that was
back then.
normal to be
And
30 and
now
be like
it's
a
like if
rookie.
you're 30s or 40s, like, man, this guy's on his way out.
Yeah, seriously. It's
It's like watching
crazy.
the Olympics now. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm 28 years old. I mean, you're 30, and it's just like they'll be talking about,
This guy's 19. He's in
yeah,
the Olympics
or no,
and
they'll be like, she's 27. They literally said this about Simone Biles. They'll be like, she's 27, veteran. It's like what? They're like,
yeah, you're
this is her
younger than
last
us.
year.
This is the last time in the Olympics.
It's like,
Like,
wow,
oh,
all right.
that's crazy.
Oh yeah.
But
Also, we live right next to a high school. They just had their graduation, and Lindsay and I were like, whoa, it's been 10 years. Wow.
this is nuts.
Yeah. And so whenever I walk by there, I'm like, oh, I
That's what
am
high
in a
schoolers look like.
yeah. I'm like, well, I'm
I
glad
feel like
I'm
I'm having a midlife crisis now that I'm 30. I
yeah.
see all these people that are like some people that are in the sport now are like 23. Like my
Yeah.
Jack Van Landon's 24. And sometimes I'll talk about a show or something that happened when I was younger and he's like, I wasn't born yet.
Yeah.
And I asked him the other night,
What's
I'm like,
Drake and
hey,
Josh?
I asked him the other day, I was like, how old were you for 9/11? He was like, I was like 7 months old. I shook my head. I was like, oh my goodness, that's
So you don't
mm.
remember.
Yeah, I was like, I remember all of that day
I don't
very
I actually
well.
don't remember. I actually got that question earlier this week. Where was I? I think I was like 4 on 9/11, but I just told him I was like, I briefly remember the vibes being down. I remember the vibes were off that day.
Didn't feel great.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't tell you where I was though, but I couldn't tell you where like all of our life in Florida is pretty much like
A blur.
very not a blur, but like I couldn't really put a lot of I couldn't almost tell you what's real at one point. Like it gets to that point with me. Uh, but anyways, let's wrap this up. Uh, yeah, looking forward to Michigan. Hopefully y'all have a good race.
Hopefully
Oh
breakthrough, man.
yeah, hopefully y'all bounce back. I mean, we got Blaney doing it, so hopefully y'all are right there behind him. But
Yep.
good luck. This has been 10 away. I got to go pet the dog. So,
We're going to the swimming pool, so we're
oh,
gonna have some
where's
fun.
that at?
The
Where's the
YMCA.
watering? Uh, South Korean.
Ella loves the pool.
Yeah. That used to be a stomping ground for me in middle school and a little
Hmm.
bit of high school, but yeah, we'll have fun.
It was a throwback last year when I went in there for the first time in like 15 years. I was like, whoa, I haven't been
Yeah.
here forever.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if I want to go back to that place, but we'll have fun.
thank
And
you, man. It was good. It was good hanging out.
absolutely. See you next week.
10 away.
See you guys.
5, 4,